Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Reba and this is Somewhat Functional. This is the podcast for anyone whose brains do the most, even when you're out here trying to do your best. I am a neurodivergent Black woman, educator, and mother of 3. I'm just trying to stay focused, stay kind, and hold it all together. Somewhat. This show is where we break down executive functioning, the struggle of it, how we survive it, and the stories we do not hear enough about. Let's get into it.
Today we're talking about ADHD, but in a real-life way. Not definitions, not checklists, or anything like that. Just what it looks like in real time when you're living with it. I'm talking with Mike Dodge about growing up with ADHD, being diagnosed young, taking medication, and trying to get through school and relationships when your brain works a little differently. We talk about the good, the hard parts, and the stuff people don't usually say out loud. If ADHD has touched your life in any way, this conversation will probably feel familiar. When you think about neurodiversity and your story, what parts of your identity matter the most?
Wow. I don't know, probably just the life roles when I think of because of how it impacts relationships with family members, with my wife, with my children, parents and siblings. I think when I think of neurodiversity, I'm often thinking about how it connects with the social aspect and just making things a little potentially challenging.
Yeah. Are there any childhood memories that you remember that were especially interesting and maybe you didn't know why at the time, but as you reflected, you realized what it was?
Well, as far as well, I got diagnosed when I was fairly young. I think I was and I could be wrong. It was probably around 8 or 9. I've been aware of that. I know for me the part that when I think of anything negative about specifically ADHD, it was responding to it with medication. Medication worked. I just deeply, deeply disliked it. The idea of needing to do it to function in school, but it was also the side effects and kind of like the unknown side effects that would happen. It's more of the social aspect of if I'm upset or something's bothering me, it was, did Mike take his medication? I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm just upset. Why don't you all listen to me instead of saying, oh, did you take your medication? And to be fair, I did miss it a couple of times in the afternoon, but me missing my medication had nothing to do with what was going on. And this is more like teenage years. Teenagers are grumpy anyway. And in my case, it was just more of dealing with the whole stressor. Yeah, I think that when I think of a particular experience, it's a number of years, but it's especially the fallout of taking medication. And the moment I had an opportunity to try something else, I went that route very quickly, because I did not want to take medication, first of all, and second of all, believe it's better to focus on learning to improve behaviors and create some good strategies and lifestyle changes as opposed to depending on medicine. Even though that certainly works for people, but I do not regret my decision.
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing about medication is sometimes you have to think about is the change that you want. When you actually see it, do I want him to be like zombified like that? I remember my son would be very, very astute. It was nice when he was in school, but then also it took away his ability to like stand up for himself because he was so controlled. And that's the best way I can say it. He just kind of let anybody say whatever and he just never responded to it. In some ways that's good, but in other ways as a young Black boy, no. You can't just take everything in. And then when he got older, with the insurance changes, the medication had to change. And then he got older and the new medication, I was like, for the first time, he was sad. He was never sad. And for the first time he was sad, he was saying people didn't like him. It just wasn't realistic. And I was like, what is happening to you? And I realized, like, oh, this might be a side effect. So I took him back to the doctor and I said, he's like super depressed. Like, I don't understand. And he was like, nope, we're going to change it. We're going to change it. That was clearly something that was a side effect. And then we changed it, and that part of it went away. When he went to high school, he just said, I don't need it. I said, okay. He didn't get it for the rest of the time that he was in school.
Yeah, I made the mistake of sticking up for myself with the right teacher. That's when I decided, like, my freshman year of high school was a living hell. For social reasons, for academic reasons, I did not do very well in high school. At least, sorry, freshman year. And it came to a head. I've been fighting with my parents the whole year. I mean, I even fought with my own dad, and I never fought with him. You just never talked back to him. I talked back to him. All of the time I ever talked back to him was when I was a freshman in high school. And it was like I noticed there were challenges. I could feel that things were out of control. And this teacher, that I got upset and I told her to shut up. I still do not regret saying that, because she was being disrespectful. But would I do that now? Would I have done it while on medication? Probably not. But then again, it was a good learning experience to realize that I can only stand up for myself for only so far with an
Mm-hmm.
educator, and the educator was not going to acknowledge her wrongdoing, because she didn't. And I got in school suspension for telling my teacher to shut up, because I learned a new word. I learned what insubordination meant. Got introduced to my future favorite high school teacher because of that. Not in the most positive situation, but that was like, okay, let me listen to my mother especially. Let's see if we can get some support. Um, but the challenge I noticed with that, and is probably one of the biggest reasons why I was so against medication and specifically seeking therapy or like psychological help, was literally no one listened. They only wanted to know, how is the medication making you feel? And I would say, I hate it. I don't like the side effects. It makes me stutter. Sometimes it feels like my heart's fluttering. My mouth dries out. So now my lips are addicted to chapstick because of that. I mean, I'm 45. I've been using chapstick for decades now because of that. But the psychiatrist wouldn't listen. He wouldn't listen. I just said, I don't like it. I don't like what this is doing to me. Could I concentrate in school? Yes. At the time, I don't know how many options they had, because I was allergic to Ritalin. Ritalin worked great when I was younger, but then again, it knocked me out. I was a zombie. But with this one, I was able to function. I just didn't like it. And again, it's the whole idea of I'm not normal because I'm taking medication, and the school gave me a hard time about popping pills in the morning. It's like, well, you idiots, I'm taking this for school. And so it's just more of like the social aspect. And like, I grew up in a small town of predominantly white people. I'm of a mixed race. I got made fun of all the time for being darker skinned, and I felt like I was an outcast. But now as an adult, I wonder, I don't know if I was an outcast because of how I looked or because of how I behaved. Because the social thing was a challenge for me, like knowing what are the social cues, even like dating. How do you recognize when someone is into you or not? I didn't know that. It's a miracle I got married.
I still don't.
That was like, I would say for me, that's probably the most precious challenge has been learning literally through failing and making all kinds of mistakes and realizing, oh, well, I know not to do those things. And so it's all been through the bad experiences of, okay, some people do not want me to be truly quote unquote authentic. So I have to calm down and hold in my opinions, because my even colleagues still tell me, we appreciate you for being authentic. And I'm rolling my eyes going, what am I going to do? Present myself? Like, no. I'm like, no, you want to know what, like, do you really want to know what I think? I'm still doctoring what I'm saying. If my program manager wants to know what I'm thinking, if it's a one-on-one, I'll be respectful because, I know better. But it's also, do you want to know the politically correct Mike, or do you want to know Mike? And if they want to know Mike, then it's, I don't like it, and this is why.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's one of the challenges. I told them, look, I have
Mhm.
ADHD. I am brutally honest. Give it to me bloody and raw. It's perfectly fine. What I had to learn, in my career, that yeah, only a select group of people are actually open to being to brutal honesty, and it's been tough in some ways because of that. And thankfully, my wife is often worried, like, Mike, did you say anything you would regret? I said no, no. I was very calm, and I just decided to keep my mouth shut, and you know, don't share too much. But it's I don't know.
That makes me feel you have no idea. I promise you, I have been stewing with this the past couple of days, and I've been reflecting, and I'm like, I see what the problem is. I see what the problem is. I, in a way, have no filter. I find it very hard not be direct. It is the hardest thing for me. No matter how nice I say it, no matter if I am smiling or not, things always come out wrong. And I feel people will be like, we really want you to voice your opinion. You really don't. And I feel like there's a relationship shift because I've heard people say I come off bossy or a know-it-all. And I'm not trying to be that way. I'm not a diplomat. I will never be a politician. I will never be able to wrap things up all warm and fuzzy. I'm not even like that with my children, and they expect it because they're accustomed to the way I communicate. So yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I was trying to figure out how to express that.
Example, a few years ago, so I've been at the university basically 10 years. And my first couple of years, I was happy to be employed. That was a good thing because it had been difficult being laid off and a variety of things in my first few years of my career. Just nothing was really stable. And part of it, I think, was because I was a little too direct with the feedback I would give people, and they did not like that. Totally get it now, right?
Sure,
So I
sure.
was trying to be a totally different Mr. Dodge, and I was trying to be, I guess you call it nice, Mr. Dodge. I'm going to be nice, Mike. When I work with a student, I'm going to be
Mhm.
extra friendly and extra accommodating. And it started sucking the life out of my ears and nose. And there was one particular evening, I called it divorce night because I think it was at one point, 5 recently divorced students back to back. My mistake for scheduling them like that. I'm like, oh, I can deal with it. No, like they were recently divorced too, and I think like 3 of them had really nasty breakups, like really bad. And I'm going, are you sure you want to work with me? Because I'm a man. Like, are you sure? And like, no, 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 we're fine. And those evenings were long. They were draining because I'm trying to be accommodating. I'm telling them, I want to say, do your darn homework. It's not difficult. Okay, it is difficult when you're dealing with life, but I have no right to tell someone who is hurting that, forget that person who's hurt you and focus on you. I can't do that, right? So I'm trying to be nice during that time, and it's just draining me. I'm falling behind in work. I felt like I was in trouble a lot with my manager because there were other things that I was not doing because I'm trying to be nice. Now, I've never wanted to be rude to people. And there was one student that really catalyzed all of the change. I had a colleague who was just a wonderful person. Like, I would have loved to have her as a mentor. She was so kind, a very motherly quality. It was just very warm and inviting. She was kind to everyone. She made everyone feel like they wanted to be around her. She was just a wonderful person. And this student had her, but didn't like this warm, fuzzy kind of motherly thing. He wanted someone who was more brutally honest. So my manager gives him to me, and but I wasn't being brutally honest. I was just listening, and I'm
Oh,
like, all right, well, I'm just gonna take it. And if I felt like he was going a little too far, I thought, hey, we got to scale it back, buddy. he was probably neurodivergent too. So as he's being himself, and he was vulgar, he was rude. He would send me like emails between, not even lying, 15 to 23 paragraph emails. Oh,
What?
all kinds of stuff. This guy was um,
My God.
like literally, it was bad. He did his
Stress.
work, but he was a really difficult, very caustic, and just terrible person to work with. And one day he was just venting about this algebra class that he did not want to do because he had to. And the other part is he was the most disciplined person. He always studied between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. his time. And he never missed a day. But this algebra class was not easy for him, and he had questions. But when he was available in his mind, the people, the instructors were not. If they were closed for a
Mm.
meeting or something, so he'd get really frustrated. And one day I just said, "Look, can I be honest with you?" And he says, "Hey, I'm not a snowflake." Because I had had enough of this. This was like several weeks of just whining and complaining, and those emails like that just, and I'm just going, okay, I'm either going to get fired or this is going to work. And I just said, "You're whining more than my 3-year-old. Stop complaining and just do your homework." And completely silent after that. I'm just thinking, okay, let's see where this goes. Because I had enough of being nice. I was sick of this guy, and he needed to hear what I needed to. Because when he said, "I'm not a snowflake," okay, I brought the heat. And he just said, "Wow, that was direct." And I was just going, "Oh man, I'm gonna die. This is gonna be it. I'm gonna get fired and all this." He's gonna complain because this is that student who would find someone above me to complain.
Oh.
But it worked. Suddenly it worked, and he realized that Mike Dodge is not going to put up with his garbage. And so when he got a
Mm.
little verbally abusive or tried to be, I'm like, "Hey, come on, let's tone it down." He got himself in a little trouble with instructors because he was a little too aggressive with them. Like, "You can't do that. You can do it with me. I'll just correct you, but you can't do it with others. Don't expect it." And then I realized, I just flipped a switch and I realized, even though I didn't like working with him, like I never wanted to call him because it always took a lot from me. But I realized that I felt increasingly more comfortable dealing with him because I could be me. And then I learned, even though I've never ever talked with another student like I did with him, no one has ever been that difficult to work with like he was. But he let me see that I can actually be supportive and all of that while also being more like myself, but just more like slowly improving those rougher parts in my own personality and my practices. And now, 8 or so years later, I'm still a little too direct, but definitely better than I was several years ago. And it's just like, oh, you mean I can actually make improvements little by little? And granted, if the university tells me I need to start using the fluffy words all the time, I'm like, I'm not going to, because it would be fake to me. But it's also, I can still learn to work with other people. But it all came through that realizing, who do I want to be? Do I want to be this fake person? And I've been trying for years to be that fake person, and realizing I can't do that. And then the last 5 years of my life, my marriage, my with my kids, everything has been 5 of the best years I've ever had. I've been married for a little over 20 years now, and a lot of it's because, okay, I think I've figured out how to do all of this.
Yeah.
ADHD is still a challenge, but those weaker areas, I'm like, well, I've learned how to handle these things. And the social challenges, like, well, I'll just do the best I can to improve and not expect to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful though. In previous roles, I had to work extra hard to not be myself. And I find that I am still doing that. And I too have, sometimes I'm not socially aware until after something has, or I've said something or something has happened. And I'm like, I wonder, did they take that the way that I meant it? But it's kind of too late to go back and ask or too late to change it.
Mhm.
The funny thing is, people that I coach, like teachers, they like my directness. I've never had a teacher complain and say that I was too direct, because for them, time is valuable. And I just need you to tell me what I need to do. It's always like peers or supervisors that are taken aback by my directness. And I still have not figured out why. Not entirely sure.
it's the truth is necessarily difficult to take. It's always painful, especially if the truth gives us an opportunity to acknowledge where we are weak and then gives us a challenge. Okay, we need to be better. Some of my best lessons that I've learned have been through someone who was brave enough to be brutally honest, and it could have it could have blown up in their faces, could have blown up in my face. Thankfully for me at the time, I was like, well, that hurt. That really hurt. But it's also, oh, is it true? I'm like, yeah, partially. I'm like, do I really like that? No, I don't like that. That's partially true. Okay. So then what am I going to do about it? And I think that's one of the things I've noticed too, is that it's easy to just do the surface level. Yes, please give us feedback, be honest with us. But unless you are truly trusted by that person and you really have a good collaborative relationship, most of us are still acting because we can't be as honest as we might be with with our children or our partners or whatever, or someone who is really, really close to us, someone who knows who we are personally. Now, for me, like my managers they're very respectful. They challenge me when I'm going too far. They recognize, because I'm very open with them, like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing, but I also don't want to ruffle the wrong feathers. But then I've learned through over the years that I also need to assume that the people around me have thin skins. So I'm going to word something in a way that is still me, but it's understanding that I hope this doesn't sound negative, but it's like I'm speaking as though I'm in enemy territory. And I want to make sure that people understand that what I'm saying is not intended to be aggressive. Because for me, like, okay, I'm a big man. I'm 6'4", not a skinny 6'4". I'm a large 6'4", and I realize physically how people respond to me. So I'm like, so I will stay keep my distance as I'm talking to someone, because when I was younger, I was up in their faces and I wasn't trying to be aggressive. And so for me, I'm like, all right, so I recognize that, and I happen to speak in a more aggressive tone. Like I'm a louder, I have a deeper voice. All of those reasons that I'm like, okay, because of that, I'm aware that I know how people might be impacted by it. And so it's just, well, what can I do to counter it? Look for feedback, trying to improve, be a little kinder. And then I'm going to use humor. Um, I feel like humor allows me to be a little more direct, because I'm kind of joking with the person, but I'm also giving them a message, that, hey, you could push an old man down the stairs. That's probably not a good idea. Same thing as like, yeah, you could not do your homework for the entire week. Yeah, it's just as wise as pushing an old man down the stairs. Probably not a good idea, but you can still do
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah. It's your
it's
choice.
like your choice. You can,
Yeah.
but I don't know. But I feel like a lot of people just, we give surface level to being open to feedback, and when someone gets it, it's no longer my responsibility as the person giving it. It's now them. How do you take it?
Yeah, the reception. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. My supervisor said to me yesterday, she was like, "What do you think the perfect, the sweet spot role for you is?" Frankly, I would probably do the best in my career, the least I have to interact with multiple people. She cracked up. And I'm not trying to say that, I'm so against making improvements. I'm being very honest and saying, like, I already know that this is a problem that I face. And what I don't want is someone has misinterpreted what I said. And the crazy thing about it is everything I say, or any kind of feedback that I give, is coming from the deepest part of my heart, because I am truly trying to be helpful, and because I'm like one of those people that want to win all the time. And so I'm trying to help, and it just never seems to land that way.
Then it's hard,
And
because
I,
because I think many people, they have like, they may perceive that, and I won't exactly speak for you, but maybe they feel like, Reba, like, I don't know if she really recognizes the impact that she's having. But the truth
yeah,
is, we do. We see after the fact that we've just said something that insulted somebody. Like, I wasn't trying to harm you. Like, I feel bad now that I've just said something that I didn't mean to come out that way. And I'm like, what can I do to improve it? And so a lot of it's like, I think I find myself talking even more on purpose to explain that what I'm going to say, I want you to know that everything I'm saying right now is not because I'm trying to be a jerk. I literally want good things for you. And so my poor students, they're probably thinking like, why is he talking so much? I'm like, I just want you to know I'm not mad at you. Like,
You got to put the disclaimer out
yeah, it's
there.
like I'm I'll tell an off-color joke about like having ADHD because I love making fun of myself. Who wouldn't, right? It's fun. It's fun to live with it. It's fun to tell jokes.
And it's so interesting when you realize like, oh, that was totally an ADHD moment. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. That was totally
Yeah, it's like the squirrel moment. You're like, oh, I'm sorry. Like I just jumped from one topic to another. Did you catch that transition? No. I'm like, thank you for calling that out. Like I was just talking about that. I'm like, oh, whoops. And then I'll explain, hey, remember ADHD, crazy mentor, whatever. But it's also, reading the room, so to speak. Like, am I working with someone who is okay with the so-called edgy humor? And in an education setting, with academia, everyone gets offended. So it's like,
it,
oh,
it's a slippery slope.
so it's like, all right, so then what is considered, so a lot of it's like, what is considered socially acceptable? What kind of sarcasm? And it's like, you don't know. So it's like, all right, well, I'll make a little joke about something that's real about for all of us, not just one select, one individual person. But one on one, if the person's going to joke with me, they're inviting me to joke with them. So I'll do the same. But then it's also, all right, but if I'm in a larger group, let me tone it down. It's like before I submit entering with commenting on something, I am thinking, is this necessary? Is this adding to the conversation? And if the
Yeah.
answer is no, I don't. Or the other piece is if I am upset, if I can tell I'm annoyed about something, I also want to make sure that I'm just quiet and I listen and learn as much as I can, because then once I've heard the full thing, then it's time. Okay, now they want Mike Dodge, the analytical thinker, to say, okay, what about
Hmm.
these things? What about these other things? As opposed to,
Yeah.
shame on you, your parents must have been siblings or something. Because I might come from a small town. There are lots of
Oh
inbred people in
God.
that small town, and like I like to make fun of that. I can't do that, because I'm like, all right, I can't insult their intelligence.
I think that is dumb. Like that is one of my big sayings. Like I just think that is dumb. But I do find myself, like you said, especially if emotions are high, because I'm annoyed by something, it is always best if I don't talk. But the funny thing is they're never okay with that. They always want to push and be like, no, we really want, no, I really think you don't. Because I've already said this. I told you that this is misaligned with what we agreed on. And I have no idea what else you want me to say. And then because I'm annoyed, my tone is going to be more stern. I'm going to be talking with my hands. I'm going to be going, moving around. And it comes off as like a fighting stance. When I really just wanted to sit here and be upset in my body and not let it come out. And that is never enough.
Although when you have, I did have, and maybe part of the reason why the last 5 years have been kind of have been helpful for me. But anyway, sorry. You have when you have someone who has some authority over you at work, when they are asking you for your input, I'm going, okay, let me prepare and make sure I really say something that's impactful and useful. And I need to behave as best as I can, because then what eventually happens, and I've seen this personally, where it's just, I've worked really hard, and I know we both have things we can improve. I've worked really hard about slowly taming that beast inside of me. And sometimes the beast gets loose, sometimes I've got it reeled in really well. And there's a part of me that wonders, how am I doing? Because man, some days I just feel like I'm just a massive grump. My kids think of me as a grumpy person. I'm like, come on, it's not like I'm yelling at you all the time. So I wonder, how am I presenting myself at work? Okay, my managers are very, very helpful or some of my coworkers also tell me, hey, we probably ought to chill out. I'm like, thank you for calming me down. But when I realized that things were actually improving was when a senior manager would ask me, hey, Mike, I know you have this experience or whatever. What do you think about this? And I'm going, oh, that's actually very flattering that you would ask me, but it's also maybe something's working, even though I feel like it's imperfect and I'm still a colossal mess up. Still, that person trusts me enough to want to know what I think because that person knows I'm not going to hold back. I'm still going to say something that is uncomfortable. At the same time, as long as we want to learn, it's like, hey, I could be completely wrong about this, but this is what it looks like now. And it's I don't know, I don't know if other how other people experience it, those who don't have ADHD or some other challenge. Um, I've often wondered if I'm on the spectrum because emotionally
Me too.
I don't feel it. It doesn't after the fact, I feel the remorse and the guilt for hurting someone. When I'm with the student, they get all of me. They get my full investment, but at the same time, when they don't do their if they don't do their work and like I don't want them to be dismissed, I don't want them to leave the university. Um, but I don't have the luxury of time in my life to let them take over more than they should. I will do whatever I can to support them and help them graduate. But if they're not going to do the work, because I'm going, you will get every bit of me, and I will help you in any way I can. But you have to meet me, and if you don't,
But you have to meet me
now
halfway.
and then like emotionally, I'm just not feeling it, and I don't know. And that's a tough thing too. Is just like, well, recognizing the cues, and if you don't care, that's the problem too.
Yeah. How many people do you have assigned to you? How many
Usually
students
about
do you have
100.
assigned to you?
Yeah, it fluctuates.
Oh, yeah, there's no way that you can hold that much emotional space for 100
Yeah.
students.
Yeah. And there are some that I know very well. We have great conversations. They're friends. They're almost family members. Like they have a good relationship. And then they graduate and they move on. And it's like there's a part of me that's sad, like, oh, I don't get to work with this student anymore. But it's also I will remember that person because of what they've done, how they've impacted me personally. They might go, oh, I don't know if you remember. I'm like, of course I do. I remember what you just taught me. This is great stuff. Yeah, of course I'll give you a recommendation or whatever. Yeah, please. But if it's a person that has made no effort, I'm just going, I'm here to help you, but if you don't answer my phone call, if you don't respond to my text message or my email, I don't know you enough to care. And so it's just like, and if I say it that way in a work setting, the mentors are going, oh, probably like, Mike says he doesn't care. I'm like, I don't have the luxury of doing that. And I don't know how to voice that in a way that doesn't make it sound like Mike says,
I would not need an explanation. I mean, if you have to be accountable for that many people, I don't see the need for an explanation as to why you
yeah.
can't be emotionally invested in 100 of them.
Yeah. I mean, when they're successful,
I'm sure there are some that stand out
yeah.
significantly.
And if they've if a person is connected with me in a way that they trust me enough to share a challenge they're going through, that changes things because then I then have a responsibility of, okay, I really need to listen. It's now I'm coaching. I'm not a therapist, right? But like they still need someone to listen. So this is time for me to shut my mouth and just listen and let them get whatever they need off of their chests. And then it's all right. Now that you've just vented and cursed up a storm or whatever, how can I help you? Because I do know, like in my situation, there are things that I can and cannot do to help them. When it's academics, I'm there. I'm the person they want to talk to. When they're having personal problems, they don't want to hear my opinions because one, it's not my role. It's not my responsibility to tell someone how to live their life. If they wanted to know, I'm like, why don't you talk to Mike Dodge in a social setting? And I might tell you, maybe not. If they want to know, how can I keep from having this personal thing happen to me? I'm like, well, here's some things here. But it's also my experience. And I'm privileged. I haven't had to worry about a lot of challenges that some of my students have. I don't know what it's like to come from a single parent household. I don't know what it's like to deal with divorce. There are a lot of things that I have not had to experience that my students will experience. And so I'm going, how do I support them? Okay, life is teaching me to just close my mouth and listen, and then I learn from them. But if they're like, hey, this is your lane, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, it's simple. Do your homework. Everything else is going to continue happening when they deal with life challenges. I'm like, those challenges aren't going away anytime soon. That's part of what your normal is now. So it's more of
Mhm.
focus on what you can do now. Like I'm a student, I'm in our accounting program because I'm crazy.
Oh.
That's why. I finished my degrees years ago and I'm like, well, why not? I've never gone to WGU. Let me try it. So
Yeah,
I'm
let's
busy,
do
I
it.
have my career, I have my family, we have things we need to do. When am I going to have time to do my homework? At night when everyone else is asleep. Um, Not pretty. Sometimes I fall asleep in front of the computer, but it's also everyone can do
Mm-hmm.
that. It's more of if they're willing to do that and helping them and, not sound like a heartless human being when my colleagues will come up with this really wonderful, very flowery, we want you to be present and I want you to feel heard and seen. And I'm going, I don't care if the student feels heard or seen. I want to know, do they feel like Mike understands and respects them?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm
Yeah.
thinking cut through all of the academic and psychological jargon and get to the point of, am I respecting them and treating them like I would want to be treated in that situation? Am I doing what I've argued people didn't do when I was a teenager? It's like, am I
Mm-hmm.
listening? And if I am, it's like, okay,
Yeah. What about with your family? Is your spouse ADHD
no,
or
she's
have
normal.
any kind?
She's crazier than I am because she puts up with me.
I asked the question because I feel like there is something to be said about neurodivergent communication styles versus neurotypical communication styles. She probably
That's a well, I'll put it this way. My communication, like I do over communicate. She definitely gets to the point more often. She's like the anchor that when the storms are flowing and the ship my brain is going everywhere. She's all right, Mike. How did this
yeah,
comment come from this area? I'm like, oh, thank you. So she is the guiding light. She is that stalwart, steady person. But the key thing is she's also exceptionally understanding and patient. Her life has been a lot more difficult than mine, and she has had to learn through really super difficult, dangerous times how to survive, how to overcome a lot of serious problems. And I think it has made her become even more empathetic. She's still a very driven person. She is a bossy woman. She's a 5'2" woman that I would never mess with. Um,
6'4" and 5'2".
yeah, and she is like she's like 8 feet tall and with attitude. But at the same time, like I recognize that because I'm a direct person, she knows, at least in our relationship, she knows that, well, she can be direct with me. Um, I've learned to not
Mhm.
be so sensitive to just accept it because the pain is part of growth. So for her, yeah, no,
Mhm.
she is just. I think life has just has taught her to be empathetic and patient
Yeah.
because she didn't have a choice herself. I think in her own way, she wasn't listened to when she was younger. And it's just,
Mhm.
well, I see what Mike's doing. I need to get him back. And it's like, thank you. You know, man in his
Yeah.
40s still occasionally needs to be talked to like a child. And
Uh, I would argue until y'all die.
oh yeah,
You
oh yeah,
that,
I'm gonna be that old guy in the wheelchair just laughing at the sky for no reason. I'll be that guy.
yeah, that is very helpful. Well, wow, this was so affirming. I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time. So I appreciate that. What has this conversation helped you see something differently, or did something come up as you were talking about and reflecting on your experience?
I think the one big lesson I've gained in my life, especially as an adult, but even even as a teenager, and I share this with students, and I think this just affirms the same thing. We're all in different ways. We're broken in different ways. I don't know what the ideal brain is or the ideal person. It might be like Albert Einstein with a LeBron James body. I don't know. I don't know. But whatever ideal is, like me, I'm a person of faith. I have this perfect example to aspire to follow. I'm never going to achieve perfection, and I will never achieve a point in my life where I never make a mistake, that I never get upset, because that is not moral, that's not human, in my opinion. And because that is completely impossible, I actually don't look at that as a negative. And that's the key thing, is only try. As long as I keep on trying, yes, I'm not going to get to the point where I'm perfectly patient, where I never say a foolish thing or incorrect or impolite thing. I'm not going to be that way, right? Because I can get better, but I will always have some struggle with that. But if I keep on working at whatever that thing is that needs to be improved, if I keep on working at it, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I'll still have those challenges that maybe the so-called regular brain doesn't have, but I'm going to be
Mhm.
better because I've worked at it. And so I feel like a lot of people, they put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect when that shouldn't be the standard. It's like because we will never achieve perfection on our own. I'm where I'm at now partially because of my decisions, but I'm also there partially because I have anchors in my life. In my
Mhm.
case, I'm
Yeah.
blessed with a very patient and loving woman. My parents, in their own imperfect way, were also there to help. They didn't know the first thing about parenting a child with ADHD, but they still met some needs that I had at the time. And now as an adult, I realize with my own children, I have two that probably have ADHD. I know what to avoid, and I'm still figuring crap out. But then while you continue to work at something, you get better at it little by little. And when we start to get a little extra critical of ourselves, it's more thinking, am I better than I was a year ago or a few years ago? Do I feel like, even though I get frustrated, do I feel like I have some tools that I'm using now? And I think it takes time and some humility to recognize the wins and the good things that are going on with us. Because even with, and I don't understand other neurodivergent challenges, but at least with the ADHD thing, I have this, my opinion is at some point in my existence, I think I accepted it, that this is my decision. I want to take on this challenge. I don't know what I was thinking at that time, why I would decide to accept it, but and that's my personal belief that I accepted it. This will be my challenge in life. The thing is, having this has been very difficult in some ways, but it has been a massive blessing in my life. I've learned to become more empathetic because if someone is struggling with something, I'm like, hey, I may not be in your shoes, but I do understand. I felt pain. I know what it's like to screw up and beat yourself up and realize, hey, I can't give up. I got to keep on going. And then let's face it, a lot of people with ADHD, we're stubborn cusses. We don't give up very often,
Mm-mm.
and the world keeps on telling us that we're not normal, we're brats, we're this. Yeah, of course we
Yeah.
are. That's
Yeah.
what makes that's why you need someone with a little so-called crazy brain in your group because they're the ones that say things that no one else wants to say, but no.
They will say absolutely what
Exactly.
everyone is thinking, but nobody wants to
And
say.
then and I've heard this repeatedly with some of my colleagues who will say, thank you. I'm glad someone said it. I'm going, I was
Yes.
hoping I wouldn't get in trouble. It's a blessing in disguise if we can learn how to just be okay with being having a scrambled brain. It's fun. There is a lot of
Yes.
excitement and enjoyment in not being so-called neurotypical. When I think of neurotypical, I think of the Karen in the next neighborhood who doesn't want me to make my fence a certain way, and I'm going, guess what? Take
Oh
your ugly
Lord.
dog down the street because guess what? This is my property. I'm building this way that I want, and why? Because I can.
Because that's what I want
Yeah,
to
or
do.
she wants to know, it's like, well, because I'm not putting this here. Why? Well, because my wife says I can't. And I was like, and happy wife, happy life. It's like, well, you do what you know what to do, what not to do. Anyway, I guess my
Well, yeah, you have the hills that you'll die on and the ones that
yeah,
you
oh yeah,
won't.
it's like, do I literally want to die because she kills me? No, of course not.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of it's just like aspire for something better and keep on working at it, and then just be grateful for the challenges that you have because it is part of the very challenges that people face are also a catalyst for them improving and becoming even better and stronger people, more resilient, all of the above. And anyone that talks about resilience, I say resilience it only comes through struggling and feeling pain and getting up. And like a baseball analogy, when you get hit by a pitch, if you just fall on the ground and scream and cry, you're not going to do anything. People are just going to make fun of you and think of you as a weakling. But if you get up and even
Right.
if you're limping and you're bloodied and you're maybe crying a little bit, but you keep on moving forward, it's like that's all what life is about.
Yeah.
It's like,
He persist
yeah.
yeah, he persisted. He did
And it's
that.
like, and when someone says, oh, I don't know if you could do it, I'm like, guess what? I'm going to prove you wrong. My mother has been
Mhm.
telling me for years, or has suggested, hey, you should try this new medication. I'm like, Mom, you got to listen to me. I'm never taking medication again, ever. Like when it comes to ADHD medication, I'm like, I've learned to be completely fine with being quote unquote crazy. Crazy's fun. Crazy isn't boring.
Joy,
Yeah.
just the little things that make us
And it's
happy.
just it's embracing what makes us imperfect as long as we're trying to
Mhm.
improve as people and as, as colleagues and stuff. I feel like that's the secret to happiness in a way is like work on improving, but be fine with being flawed because that's who you are.
Yeah. Failure is important.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you so much. This was wonderful. I hope that, you said it was the first time you were ever doing something like this. I hope it wasn't evasive. I hope it brought you some joy.
That's it for today's episode of Somewhat Functional. If this hit home, subscribe, leave a review, and please send it to someone who needs it. You never know who's out there feeling alone. Let's remind them that they're not. And listen, if you have a story or a strategy or a meltdown moment that you want to share and you think it belongs on this show, hit me up. You can reach me at dr.reba@somewhatfunctional.com. Take what you need, rest when you can, and remember, you are more functional than you think. And hey, my brain won't let me be great, but that ain't stopped me yet. Thanks for rocking with me, and I'll see you in the next episode.